Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
There's one story from a Domino's location in a quiet Midwestern town that's been whispered among former employees for years. They say it happened in the early 2000s, and the ones who talk about it never speak casually. They always lower their voice. Their eyes shift like they're afraid something might still be listening. The store was one of the chain's smaller locations, tucked into a dying strip mall. Most of the stores around it had already shut down, just empty windows with peeling paint and for lease signs curling in the corners. The Domino's, though, it stayed open, even as business dwindled. Most of the drivers hated being assigned there. The cameras in the back were always flickering. The light in the walk-in freezer had a habit of going out for days at a time, and something about the place just felt off. One driver in particular, named Kyle, was brand new. He'd only been there a couple weeks when he got his first really weird delivery. The ticket was strange. No phone number, handwritten address, and a note in the instructions box that read, "Back door only. Don't knock. Just leave it on the second step and go." He asked the manager if it was a prank, but the guy, Joe, an older guy who never smiled, just gave a slow shake of his head. "We get that one every Friday. Same order. Large cheese, no sauce. You'll know the house when you see it." Kyle shrugged it off. Probably just some recluse. The address was about 15 minutes outside of town, in a part he wasn't familiar with. The roads got narrower, streetlights more sparse. By the time he pulled up to the house, it felt like he was in the middle of nowhere. The home was small, one story, clearly abandoned. No car, no lights, windows boarded up from the inside. But the porch light was on. Kyle got out, box in hand, and walked to the back like the instructions said. The second step creaked loud under his foot. He set the pizza down and turned to leave, but froze. From the corner of his eye, he swore he saw someone watching him from the tree line. Just a dark silhouette. Unmoving. Watching. He didn't run. He didn't look back. He got in his car, locked the doors, and sped off. He didn't say anything to Joe when he got back. Didn't clock it as anything worth reporting. But every Friday, that same order came in. Same instructions. Same house. 2 months later, Kyle didn't show up for his shift. Just vanished. No call. No texts. Joe didn't seem surprised. He just called someone else in. Another driver. The next week, the same address popped up again. After Kyle, they started losing people. Not always drivers. A manager locked herself in the walk-in freezer one night and claimed something was scratching at the door from the outside, yet even though the cameras showed no one near it. One girl said she heard someone whispering her name from the storage closet, even when she was the only one in the store. Another driver swore he saw Kyle, the missing Kyle, standing in the back hallway just outside the bathroom. Said he was dripping wet, his clothes hanging heavy, face pale, eyes wide open. When the driver turned to call someone over, Kyle was gone. They stopped taking the order for a while, but it kept coming in. Every Friday. No number to block, just the address. One day, the system glitched and it auto-accepted the order. Joe found out and threw a fit. He tried canceling it, but the screen locked up. Then the power went out. The backup generator kicked on. For a second, everything was fine. Then the ovens turned off by themselves. The front sign shorted out, and someone started banging on the back door. 3 knocks, then silence. One of the new hires, fresh out of high school, went to check, thinking it might be a customer. The others begged him not to open it, said it wasn't worth it, said they'd explain later. He opened it anyway. They found him the next morning in the parking lot, sitting in his car, windows up, doors locked. His eyes were open and he was breathing, but he wouldn't speak, wouldn't blink, wouldn't move. Just stared straight ahead, lips trembling slightly like he was repeating something under his breath. He never came back to work. Last anyone heard, he was in a long-term care facility out of state. Domino's corporate shut the location down not long after that. Official reason was plumbing and electrical issues, but no one bought that, especially not the staff. The building still sits there, boarded up, the old Domino's sign faded and cracked. But sometimes, if you drive by late on a Friday night, you'll see the porch light in the back flick on. And if you listen closely, you might hear a car door slam, footsteps on wood, and 3 slow, deliberate knocks.
Story number 2.
This one comes from a small town in Texas. It's been years since it happened, but people still remember. It involves a quiet man named Gerald, a regular customer at a local Domino's. No one knew much about him except that he lived on the outskirts of town in a rundown trailer surrounded by overgrown grass and dark woods. The town wasn't exactly thriving, but it was safe, or so everyone thought. Gerald always ordered the same pizza, extra cheese, mushrooms, and sausage, and he always paid with exact change. No tipping, no small talk, just a quick handoff, and that was it. He didn't interact with the staff much. In fact, he had a strange habit. He'd always ask the driver to deliver his pizza after midnight. And it wasn't just an occasional thing, it was every single time. At first, the drivers were confused, but didn't question it. After all, it was just another order. But after a few months, a few started noticing something odd. Gerald's trailer wasn't like the others. The lights inside would be dim, almost too dim to see through the windows. And sometimes, the air around his trailer felt heavier, like something was pressing in from all sides. A few drivers reported hearing strange noises when they'd pull up, like whispers or soft scratching sounds coming from inside, even though the trailer appeared empty. One night, a driver named Tom got the late-night delivery. It wasn't out of the ordinary. Gerald's order had come in again, exactly on time. But this time, Tom was feeling uneasy. The road to Gerald's place was isolated, pitch black with no streetlights, and the trailer sat at the edge of a thick, dark forest. He could barely make out the outline of the trailer in the distance, surrounded by nothing but blackness. When Tom arrived, he noticed something strange. The door to the trailer was wide open, but there were no lights on inside. He knocked 3 times, just like he was supposed to, but there was no answer. That wasn't too unusual. Gerald had always been a man of few words, so Tom decided to leave the pizza on the doorstep like he usually did. As he turned to walk away, though, he felt something behind him. He couldn't explain it, but it was as if someone was watching him from the dark. He quickened his pace, just wanting to get back to his car and leave. But as he neared the end of the driveway, he heard a low, raspy voice whisper from the darkness, "Don't leave yet." Tom froze, every muscle in his body locked with fear. The voice was faint but unmistakable. He spun around, trying to peer into the black void of the woods. He could see nothing, only the whispering wind and the rustle of leaves. But something else was there, something he couldn't see, watching him. "Don't leave yet." The voice came again, this time much closer. Tom felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Without thinking, he ran back to his car, jumped in, and slammed the door shut. He started the engine, tires screeching as he peeled out of the driveway. As he drove away, he swore he saw a figure standing on the porch of the trailer, motionless, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. The next day, the manager at Domino's tried to reach out to Gerald to confirm his order for the following week, but there was no answer. They tried several times, even sending someone to the trailer to check on him. When they arrived, the trailer was completely empty, abandoned. The lights were still dim inside, and the pizza delivery box from the night before was still sitting on the doorstep, unopened. But the real horror came when they went to the local records office to look into Gerald. There was no record of him ever having lived in the town, no information about his background. His name didn't exist in any database. He had no past, no family. It was as if he just appeared one day, ordering pizza and living in a trailer on the edge of town. Rumors spread quickly. Some said Gerald wasn't human, but a spirit trapped in the woods, forced to repeat his orders every night. Others said he was a demon in disguise, feeding off the fear of the drivers who ventured too close. No one really knew what he was, or if he was still out there. To this day, Domino's won't deliver to that area anymore. The trailer was eventually torn down, but some of the older folks in town claim that if you drive out there late at night, you can still hear the soft whisper of a voice calling from the woods. "Don't leave yet."
Story number 3.
There's one that comes from a Domino's in Pennsylvania. Not a rural town, suburban, decently busy with a college nearby and enough late-night orders to keep the staff on edge every weekend. But this story doesn't come from a driver. It comes from someone who worked inside. Her name was Becca. Becca worked the closing shift, mostly answering phones, helping with orders, and cleaning up at the end of the night. The store closed at 1 a.m., but they'd usually be in there until 2 or 3, mopping, restocking, finishing up deliveries. She'd gotten used to the long hours and the weird customers. What she wasn't used to was the man in the back hallway. He started showing up just after winter break. She never saw him clearly, just glimpses in the corner of her eye. A man in a faded hoodie standing near the back freezer or just behind the door to the mop closet. He'd vanished the second she turned her head. At first, she figured it was stress or lack of sleep. Everyone joked about how the store was haunted, mostly because of the weird things that happen after midnight. Ovens turning off on their own, the radio crackling with static, phones ringing with no one on the other end. But then, things got worse. One night, Becca was alone for a few minutes while the rest of the crew stepped outside for a smoke break. She was sweeping near the front counter when she heard the sound of the freezer door slamming shut. She froze. No one was back there. She hadn't opened the freezer all night. She slowly crept toward the back, calling out, thinking maybe one of the drivers had come in through the side door. But there was no answer. When she reached the freezer, it was wide open. Frost was billowing out, and on the floor, just outside the door, was a single footprint in the frost, barefoot. Long toes, too long. The print led nowhere, just the one right in front of the door. From that night on, she refused to be in the store alone. But the man didn't stop appearing. In fact, others started noticing him too. One of the drivers, Nate, saw him reflected in the bathroom mirror, standing behind him, just for a split second. Another girl quit on the spot after she turned around during a closing shift and saw him crouching on the prep table, just watching her. The owners thought it was all some group hysteria. They installed new cameras, new locks, and even a motion detector in the back. But every so often, during the late night shifts, the motion alarm would trigger, always in the same hallway, always just past the mop closet. One night, the store manager decided to stay late alone. He didn't believe any of it, thought the crew was playing tricks, trying to get more people scheduled per shift. He brought his own camera, left it running in the prep area, and waited. He was found the next morning in the mop closet, unconscious. His mouth was wide open, jaw nearly dislocated, like he'd been screaming. He had scratches all over his arms, and when they looked at the footage, they saw nothing until around 2:11 a.m. The camera picked up audio, faint and distorted, a soft whispering like breathing or muttering. Then a shape, a figure moved just outside the freezer door. Not quite visible, but not quite invisible either, like something shifting just beneath the surface of the air itself. The video cut to static. The manager never came back, quit the next day, moved out of state. Said he didn't remember anything from that night, but sometimes he woke up with his jaw aching and dreams of standing barefoot in a freezing hallway. The Domino still operates today. Same location, new crew. But they all say the same thing. Don't look down the hallway after midnight. Don't open the mop closet. And if you catch something watching you in the freezer's reflection, don't turn around because he doesn't like to be seen.
Story number 4.
There's one Domino story that doesn't get told much because it ended with someone vanishing, and not the kind of vanishing you can chalk up to a runaway or an accident. This happened in 2016 in a Domino's located in a mid-sized Ohio town inside a rundown strip plaza next to a liquor store and a nail salon that hadn't been open in years. Locals called that stretch of shops the dead zone because the lights would constantly flicker at night and the Wi-Fi never worked properly after 10 p.m. The story revolves around a driver named Marcus, early 20s, laid back, had only been with Domino's for a few months. Everyone liked him. He was the type who cracked jokes even during rushes and never got rattled. That's probably why he didn't freak out when the first weird call came in. It was around 11:40 p.m., close to closing. A single large pizza, no cheese, just sauce and crust. The call came from a landline, and the voice that placed the order was odd, slow, slurred, almost like it was being played backward. But Marcus shrugged it off. People order weird stuff all the time. The address was the real red flag. It wasn't a house. It was an old motel off Route 68, shut down for years, boarded up. Everyone in town knew not to go near it. The rumor was that it was used as a halfway house back in the 90s, and something terrible happened in room 6, but no one ever confirmed it. Still, the order came through, paid online, and the manager, new guy, didn't know the area, told Marcus to just take it and be done. Marcus joked on his way out, "If I'm not back in 20 minutes, I'm probably ghost food." He never came back. At first, they thought he was just screwing around, maybe stopped somewhere, got distracted. But his car was found at the motel the next morning, parked perfectly in one of the stalls near room 6. The pizza box was still in the passenger seat, untouched, still warm, but Marcus was gone. Police searched the motel. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no blood, nothing. But in the dusty window of room 6, someone or something had written a message in the grime: "Delivery received." That's when people started talking. One of the former night shift workers admitted that the store had received calls from that same number before, but every time they answered, there would just be static or whispering. One night, he swore he heard his own voice echoing back at him over the line, saying things he hadn't said. Domino's corporate got involved briefly. They reviewed the call log and claimed the number didn't exist in any telecom system. It wasn't registered to any carrier. When they pulled the recording of the order call, it was just silence, no voice, just 5 full minutes of dead air before the order showed up on the system. That location doesn't do late-night deliveries anymore. Management tells customers the system stops accepting orders after 11:30, but that's not true. The system still works fine. They just don't want anyone else ending up like Marcus. And every once in a while, late at night, the order pops back up. Large pizza, no cheese, just sauce, room 6, but no one dares take it anymore because no one ever returns.